Welcome to the new Teacher Talk podcast.
We are helping you find your passion,
Learn your craft,
and share your successes.
Hello, everybody.
Wow. Welcome, everybody.
That was my best Pablo imitation.
Here we go. Welcome to episode 22 of the Pablo and Wes podcast. We are good to be back.
Yeah, it's summer and it's quickly becoming school.
And there's nothing wrong with that. So it pays the bills,
That's
baby.
right.
Yeah.
I said it's quickly becoming school start.
Yeah, well, you know.
It's short for beginning of school.
It's that kind of day. It's like anyways.
Yeah. So please head over to iTunes. Give us some 5-star love. And actually, more importantly than that, write us a review with comments and give us tips and hints at what you appreciate or what you'd like to see more of. We'd love to hear from you.
Absolutely. And also don't be afraid to reach out to us on social media, whether it be Twitter, Instagram. We love to share our thoughts with first-year teachers and veteran teachers alike. So
yes.
Please reach out to us.
Yeah.
We love talking to you.
We're excited today to talk about time management. And I feel like one of our most successful podcast episodes so far is classroom management. I feel like time management is very close to classroom management in terms of what teachers are interested in, often frustrated by, have questions about, want to know the secrets about. And so for us, this is going to be kind of a learning journey, just talking through some of the things that we've hit upon, but we're really interested in the conversation. Give us some feedback on social media and tell us your thoughts.
Absolutely.
But I thought we'd start out with kind of talking about how we came to grips with time management over the kind of the length of our career as students and as young people. And even as we were reflecting, I kind of thought like, hey, you know what? I didn't learn that till college, or, you know.
Yeah.
So what do you remember as kind of the earliest like forming of those time management habits for you as a young person?
Yeah, we were talking about this before we went on air, and if I feel like I was pretty much a free spirit just because my parents were working 2 jobs and weren't home a lot during my adolescent years. And in elementary, I can't remember like having a schedule other than being in school and coming home and maybe doing my homework, maybe not. Yeah. But I knew I had other responsibilities, so that wasn't at the forefront. But that being said, how did I feel like until I got into sports, I was able to start working on myself in a schedule, whether it be mental health, whether it be my physical health, or whether it be just aligning, getting my homework done and then having to go to practice and so on and so forth. But that's really the early time periods that I can remember actually starting to care about, like, time period.
Yeah, I think I agree with you in terms of there were sort of junior high and elementary sports, but in high school where there were competitive seasons and coaches made a much bigger deal about kind of that arc from summer training to the beginning of the season. So you sort of saw this this timeline that wasn't really there earlier. It was like the preparation you did during the summer kind of laid the foundation for how you did in league competition. And then coaches would actually kind of change up your preparation or what you did with your time over the course. I just remember like our swim coach, I just heard, I had my 30th year high school reunion yesterday. And I ran into a friend who was actually brothers with the coach, who was much older. He was like 20 years older, but it was his brother. He retired last year and was a great coach. But he would do like guided visualizations to help us prepare for key meets. But we didn't do them for every key meet. But I remember he's like, lay down on the bleachers. I'm going to walk you through your race. Picture this. And so that was my first exposure to sort of a creative way to prepare athletes. And it was a different use of time than we did the rest of the season. The rest of the season, we're like lifting weights and running in the preseason and then swimming. So it was really in high school where I got used to more of a finely tuned use of time to get closer to peak performance.
So how did that, that's a question of mine, just as you're speaking. How did that translate to your educational professional career?
Yeah. So that's a good question. I think in the beginning it was largely a struggle. It was like just figuring out as you go. But I did have mentors or people around me who gave me tips. And one of the time management things I got in my second or third year was a teacher across the hall said, write up your agenda the night before you leave. And I might have talked about this on another podcast, but oh my gosh, that use of time, whether it was 5 minutes or 15 minutes, or if I had to stay there an hour and go, I know what's happening tomorrow from period 1 to period 6. It's all written up there. If God forbid something happens to me and a sub walks in, it's taken care of. Yeah. That kind of peace of mind, that management of time the day before a lesson was huge.
I totally agree. I mean, let me back up a little bit. Work ethic, I think my basketball team and my 4 years of playing basketball in high school definitely created my work ethic, in terms of I really dialed in there. How did that translate? Because that's really where I learned to kind of budget my time on whether it be schoolwork or just homework or, family work, if you will. Yeah. But that being said, I don't know if I was really all that good in my first few years in terms of time management, because what I did early on is I talked about it on a different podcast, was I went in at 4:30 in the morning. It was in Santa Ana, and I stayed late. But I don't know that it was all productive time. I knew that I was a new teacher. I had to put in the work, and that's what I talk about, the work ethic. But time-wise, was I using my time wisely? Was I putting the agenda on the board, or was I arriving early to do that? I felt like I never had enough time. Yeah. And I guess we'll get to some things that helped us out along the way. But early on, first 2, 3, 4 years, I felt like I was always playing from behind.
Yeah. I mean, there's some other tips. I kind of think there's this a quote or a story about Abraham Lincoln. He's talking about if you're like chopping down trees, spend like a bulk of your time sharpening the axe versus just going out there and just hitting the tree as hard as you can with a blunt axe. So time management's kind of like that too. For me, is like, am I spending my time doing the things that'll give me the greatest benefit, or am I just busy? Because like as an English teacher, you could grade every single paper and spend every spare moment giving written feedback, and you could just lose yourself. And I did daily journals with my students for the first several years, and I gradually weaned myself off of the process of, reading every single entry. And I would tell the students, star the ones you want me to read, and the others just assume I'm going to give you a check. But there's tricks there to, like, for that was something I built in to make the students reflect. What is it I want the teacher to give me feedback on? Yeah, no,
I'm really glad you brought that up in terms of now, and this might be for another podcast, but in terms of how much do we, and this is an open question here, either of us can answer this, but how much do we value student time, and how do we support their time management? Or are we supposed to as teachers, or do we just let that go? And that's, that they have a family, they should be figuring out how they're going to manage their time. And that includes, like, homework's a big part of that. You talked a little bit about it right now. You assign things and then you had to grade them. However, what about them? They have to produce a product for you. Do we take that into consideration in terms of student time management? Is it our responsibility? Do you have an opinion on that? Or is it, where are you with that?
Yeah, I think going back to my experience growing up, I felt like my household, my mom managed my time probably to my detriment largely, because I was just, like you said, school gave you a schedule, and outside you just kind of did whatever. But I felt like maybe I experienced the same thing where my mom gave me the schedule, so I never really thought about what I was doing with my time. I was just doing what I was told. And I feel like it wasn't until later I really had free time where I'm trying to figure out, like, what's the best use of this free time? Like, am I sitting here grading and making myself miserable, or do I need to get outdoors and do something physical that actually rejuvenates me so I'm a better teacher? Nice. So those questions, I don't know that I have the answers, but I do think that I was largely kind of told what to do, and it kind of came slow over time, which is why I think this topic is important, because I think largely we dictate to students how to use their time. And I feel like in the things that I valued the most in the teacher-student interaction, it was like seasons, like competitive speech, where it's like they picked a speech and then they had all season to work on it. And the kids who practiced every day out of my jurisdiction, like they're at home, during lunch, they learned time management because they were engaged in something that they found was valuable, and they got regular feedback at competitions. But that was very different than, I think I probably overmanaged students' times in my, regular English periods.
Sure. I think we naturally do this and I'm going to bring it back in here, is the homework or whatever assignments or products that you want students to accomplish. Don't forget that you need to give them the assignments the just time, I suppose.
Yeah.
It just can't be busy work.
Yeah.
Because that is going to affect you as a teacher. It really will. You really got to think long and hard. You can't just come in and say, I'm going to do X, Y, Z, and then expect there not to be an equal reaction. Well, who's that? Newton's law.
Every action has an equal and opposite reaction.
Yeah. But it's true.
Yeah.
And so you can push all you want, but you need to be responsible on the other side or the other end of that too, to help them, to catch them, to help them. And I don't think we take that into account as educators often enough. I think we just think it's part of the deal. I'm a teacher, I lecture or whatever, I teach during the day, and then I have to assign a certain amount of work.
Yeah.
Okay, but think about that. I mean, think long and hard about that, and what's the actual end result to it on the daily.
Yeah. So there's a good correlation to me. I enjoy running, as I know you do. And I found that my sons were runners in high school, cross country. So you would find there's a different approaches. Some coaches were like, we need to do 70 miles a week or 100 miles a week, just absolutely killer schedules. And other coaches would be, we're going to stay kind of low mileage and do different kind of workouts. And so in my own like personal journey with training for half marathons and marathons, there's these schedules out there that are like, you can actually outperform if you run less. And it's just different types of running, interval trainings and things like that. So I think oftentimes we associate rigor and like being a good teacher with assigning just a boatload of work.
Sure.
And so I think in terms of productivity, we really have to check ourselves in tradition and think, okay, am I really thinking about the benefit of this activity to the student? Yeah. And realistically about how I can give feedback on it or look at it all. Yeah.
It's fascinating stuff, my friend. I swear. Because one of the main lines by a teacher, and I've used this myself, is that, it's just one more thing and I don't have time.
Yeah.
So how do we fix that? Or is it just part of what we do?
Yeah.
It's time management.
Yeah. It's a great topic. I really feel like that there's got to be a balance somewhere. And I don't know, especially as a new teacher, I don't know that I had the tools or the lens to see the balance, but I was probably overly influenced by tradition, overly influenced by the system we were in and kind of the expectations and just the kind of things people said on the regular about like, oh, I'm so busy. I took home all this grading over the weekend and it sat in my car. But there's still this badge of honor that you had assigned so much and then you took it home, and how noble. And it's ridiculous. It's not even like a true assessment of a valuable use of time. So yeah.
Yeah, I was looking up a podcast I was listening to. It was Tim Ferriss, but he had he was doing a book review.
Yeah.
Hopefully I can get to this.
I believe in you.
No. Yeah. No, he was doing a book review, and he says he rarely does book reviews, but he's going to start doing more of them and including certain chapters of the books that he's read at least minimum twice. And he even said none of them will be new books. But no, just the title of it, or what his title of his podcast, How to Say No Gracefully and Uncommit. And so I forget who the actual author, I could probably click in. It's probably going to start playing or something. But I'll look it up here in a little bit if I can find it. If not, it'll be in the show notes. But the idea of it was, and we talked about this, the power of yes. Like, hey, say yes because there's lots of opportunities that can come from that.
Yeah.
But we also, just like me, need to slow it down a little bit and think about how to respectfully uncommit or say no.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I'm not saying no to the person. That was the thought. I'm saying no to the idea, and that maybe there's another solution to getting that job done, just not maybe in the time frame or by that one person.
Yeah.
So I thought that was pretty powerful.
Yeah.
So I really think we as especially as a new teacher, you need to have that stance. And I get that it's super difficult if you're probably a pleasing person, especially in your first job, and you're under contract for the first time and you're coming in as either a temp or probationary contract. I get it. But you got to kind of stand your ground every now and then just for yourself to be able to get through that, weather the storm. But be a productive person. And sometimes you do have to work a little bit harder maybe to prove yourself. But I think there's power in also saying no.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think, is there a principle or kind of, I was thinking about saying no outside the class, outside the school day. Do you have a tip? Like, I know I worked weekends, I worked nights. I mean, that was just something I absorbed. And so I'm not sure that was healthy, but I don't know that I had a real good gauge of when to say no to things. Do you have suggestions or things that you think would be good to keep in mind? I know.
Can you expand on that?
Yeah,
because
like for example, I do know when my wife says, "Hey, you've done this too much. Let's go outside." Like, she's a good barometer. But for somebody to internally balance their time management with like, I'm working too much, like that kind of thing.
I guess I don't have specifics, but how about being able to delineate what is essential? So almost like essentialism, I guess, is a thing, right? Saying no based on if it's not essential, then maybe not right now. So maybe you list the things that are essential or primary to your life and that have value.
Yeah.
And those become the alpha, and then everything else kind of gets, I don't know, shuffled in or folded in below that. And then that allows, so you'll have to actually look at kind of open up your book of life and figure, because everything matters. It's not just your teaching. Your teaching runs into your personal life. Your personal life runs into your teaching. It's all important. So generically, I think you need to open the books and tell yourself what is primary, what is essential, and maybe start there and pick 4 or 5 things in your educational career. And then start to say, okay, these are the things. And if it doesn't lead to that goal or that primary focus, then for now, it's not essential and it's not something I can say yes to.
Yeah, I love that. That's really helpful for me. It makes me think about that balance that, like you said, not all work is important or equally essential. So what are the essentials in work? And then also that balance of taking care of yourself physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. And so that side about your realizing that if you did all the work there was to do, that would not take care of you. That would not make you healthy and whole. And so I don't know if you're ready to talk about this, but we do have some things that we use to start our day that are ways to kind of help us start well-rounded and grounded. And so
so one of them, we'll get right into it. So one of them is making our bed. And we kind of check ourselves during the school year on, hey, Wes, hey, Pablo, did you get how many of your list did you get done? I did 2 or I did 3. And it's just a quick check. It's not like, it's just shaming or anything. It's just like you might feel a little bit like, all right, I got to pick it up, tomorrow because I need to get this done. But it's a really good way to jumpstart your day. And by jumpstarting your day, I think that lends itself. I know it lends itself because it's been about a year since at least you and I have acknowledged our system that we kind of run every day for ourselves. And I know that time management wise, it makes me a little bit more efficient. Now, do I have hard data? No, but I feel really good. And, feeling good is super important.
Yeah.
Super important as far as your time management goes.
Yeah, good.
So
good
let's start with making your bed. So we have,
Yeah.
and I'll let you introduce this gentleman.
So the kind of the phrase we talk about it, we use win the day. So I say, hey, Pablo, did you win the day? He's like, yeah, I did 3 out of 3 or whatever. So making the bed was actually introduced to us, and there's a video clip. So we're going to play a bit of that. And it's Admiral, I'm sure
But he is admirable.
He is admirable. Admiral William McRaven from the U.S. Navy. And here's what he has to say about making the bed.
Change the world, start off by making your bed. If you make your bed every morning, you will have accomplished the first task of the day. It will give you a small sense of pride, and it will encourage you to do another task, and another, and another. And by the end of the day, that one task completed will have turned into many tasks completed. Making your bed will also reinforce the fact that the little things in life matter.
So great.
The little things in life do matter. Making your bed, how is that going to change your life? But it's the first task of the day, and it's going to resonate throughout your day based on that one task being done and one more task to be done and another.
Yeah.
It's good stuff. It's really good stuff.
Yeah, I find that when I get up and I move through the house, where I am and what visually is in front of me often dictates what I do. And so making the bed before you leave the bedroom like helps you get that task done right away. So if I leave and I go make coffee or whatever it is and then come back, I'm less likely to do that. But one of the other benefits is when I come home, I have that sense of like order. Like no matter how my day has been, looking at that made bed, when I walk into my bedroom, I'm like, that looks great. That looks beautiful. It looks comfortable.
I'm going to tell you right now, Wes, my wife thinks it's great.
Good tip.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
All right, so that's we kind of have 4 M's for our Win the Day protocol, and we talked about this a little bit in episode 5. So there's a little bit of a return to that. So M, make the bed. Another one is M for muscles. So what's your routine in the morning with your physical health?
It's funny because the numbers have changed. I mean, I actually used to use it as a workout. Like I used to work out or wake up every day and do about 100 push-ups.
Oof.
And not continue straight. I do about 60 straight, and then I work in about 40 over the course of the next few minutes. However, I've changed that. I still do push-ups throughout the day and later, but to start my day and as part of this routine, making the bed, and secondly, my muscles part, is I do 2 sets of 12, or I don't know why this number, 12 is my favorite number. So it's kind of a mental thing.
It's all
so
good.
I do 2 sets of 12, but I do them continuously, and I do 24 push-ups. It's not meant to be a workout. It's meant to be a task checker offer, if you will.
Yeah.
And it really does get you stimulated. You know, and I do them fairly quickly, but with good, like I think you got it in the notes there, good posture. And, but it really pumps you up and gets you going. So yeah,
it's about getting that blood flowing in the morning. Also the physical activity, you did something good for your health. I find that that circulation, getting things going, helps your alertness, helps you make better decisions earlier in the day. Mine in the beginning of the day is I have these little plastic rotating things you put your hands on, and you do a push-up and you kind of turn, and it helps keep your form straight. They're called perfect push-ups. So I do 10, but I do them slowly. So each push-up is like 3 seconds or so, over 30 seconds. And then I hold a plank. So that's one thing. I've also had moments in my life where I'm running training for a half marathon or something. So I do 2 miles before 6 a.m. That's another kind of muscles hack or habit that I've used. So those are good. I guess the question is, what do you do? And we'd be interested to hear back in terms of just keeping your health and your body awake and alert and in shape first thing in the morning.
Again, this all comes back to time management.
Yeah.
What kind of time do you actually have, and how are you going to fit this in to stay healthy, to take care of yourself? Yeah.
I think finding those moments early in the day to get a little physical activity in, it just gives me confidence the rest of the day. So 2 other ones. One is meditation. And I use an app called Calm, and there's a paid version, a free version. but I just literally hit go, and there's kind of a time number and of minutes, and it can be guided or not guided.
I believe 2017 app of the year.
Yeah, it was app of the year. I highly recommend it. I love it, and I've learned by the guided meditations how to do meditation.
Yeah, and I'm still a year later. I'm probably doing about 5 minutes. If
good.
that, I'm getting there. My goal is 5 minutes of unstructured, structured, quality, focus time. But it's hard. It's harder than you think, but it gets easier, and certainly pushing towards getting that 5 minutes of Zen time.
Yeah.
Feeling good. Yeah.
The fourth
so you have a fourth one.
The fourth one I do. You do 3, I do 4. There's other things I'm sure we throw into our morning, but morning pages is I just have a daily reflective journal. I kind of write about my stresses and worries, and sometimes I do some affirmations in writing there. So
Sweet.
Yeah, that's it.
That's it. So just remember, I mean, we don't have all the answers here. We'd love to actually hear from you, whether it be on YouTube, if you're listening there, or on our podcast on iTunes or anywhere you listen to podcasts. But we'd certainly like to hear about how you budget your time.
Yeah. Win the day, manage your time. Hit us up. Let us know.
Hey, we're done. We'll see you next time.
All right. Thank you.
Connect with us on social media at Pablo and Wes.
On Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, YouTube, and all the podcast places on the web like
iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, and Overcast.
And remember to get your free special gift at
pabloandwes.com/gift. Yay!